category because the details here are genuinely fascinating. In search demand, Clark scored a perfect 100. A perfect score. That means when people sit down at their computers or pick up their phones and search for WNBA content, Clark's name is coming up more than anyone else in the league. And it's not even close. Think about what that means in practical terms. Every time someone gets curious about women's basketball, whether they're a lifelong fan or a casual viewer who caught a highlight on SportsCenter, there's a strong chance Clark's name is the one they're typing into that search bar. That is an enormous commercial advantage. Sponsors pay millions for that kind of work. Now here's where the story gets a little more interesting. Because Angel Reese didn't just roll over and accept second place quietly. There is one category where Reese beat Clark, and she didn't just win it. She absolutely dominated it. Social media power. Reese posted a perfect 100 social score. Clark's social score? Just 46. And you know what? That actually makes complete sense when you think about it. Reese has built something genuinely impressive in the social media space. Over 12 million followers across Instagram, TikTok, and X combined. She understands how to create content that travels. She knows how to manufacture a moment, how to engage an audience online, how to keep people talking about her even when the basketball season isn't in full swing. The cover's report specifically said she leads the field in reach and engagement, turning viral moments into a wide-ranging endorsement portfolio across fashion, tech, and food brands. That is a real skill. That takes work. And Reese has clearly put in that work. But here's the thing. Despite Reese's massive social media advantage, Clark still came out ahead overall. And that tells you something really important about what actually moves the needle commercially. Social media followers are valuable, no question. But search demand, brand strength, and on-court visibility, those are the categories that corporations with serious marketing budgets care about most. Those are the metrics that determine whether you're getting a Nike deal or an Instagram sponsorship for a protein bar brand. And in those categories, Clark isn't just winning. She's operating on a completely different level. Let's talk about the rest of the rankings for a second, because the drop-off after Clark and Reese is pretty steep. Paige Bueckers came in third with a score of 67. Bueckers is a legitimate star. She was the first overall pick. She has real talent, and she's been generating buzz since her college days at UConn. But she's still 16 points behind Reese and 16 points behind where she'd need to be to compete with Clark commercially. Then you have Aya Wilson at 49 and Sabrina Ionescu at 44. Wilson is a two-time MVP. Ionescu is one of the most technically skilled players in the league. And they're sitting in the high 40s. That's not a knock on them. Those are solid scores. But it does put in perspective just how far ahead Clark and Reese are. Sophie Cunningham checks in at number 6 with a 38. Cameron Brink, Kelsey Plum, Brianna Stewart, and Haley Van Lith round out the top 10. All legitimate players, all recognizable names to WNBA fans. But in terms of broad commercial appeal, they're in a completely different conversation than the top two. Now, the timing of this report is worth paying attention to because it landed right in the middle of a pretty significant controversy. The WNBA recently released a major promotional commercial, the kind of big, splashy ad campaign you put out at the start of a season to generate excitement and bring in new fans. And that commercial featured Wilson, Ionescu, and Bueckers. 3 talented, marketable players. But Clark wasn't in it. Clark, the player who just scored a perfect 100 in search demand, brand strength, and on-court visibility, was left out of the league's flagship promotional video. The cover's report specifically called out that controversy. And it's hard not to see why they felt it was worth mentioning. Because from a pure business standpoint, leaving Clark out of your promotional material when she is objectively the biggest commercial driver in your league is a strange decision. You can debate the politics of it all you want. You can talk about representation, about team dynamics, about which players were available for filming. But the numbers don't care about any of that. The numbers say Clark is the one driving search traffic. The numbers say Clark is the one filling arenas. The numbers say Clark is the one that national networks are paying to broadcast 44 times this season. Leaving her out of your promo is a little bit like McDonald's releasing a commercial about their menu and forgetting to mention the fries. And look, this isn't an attack on Wilson or Ionescu or Buchers. Those are excellent basketball players who deserve recognition. But there's a difference between being excellent at basketball and being a commercial phenomenon. Clark has managed to become both simultaneously. And when you're building a marketing campaign designed to grow your league's audience, you go with the person who is already proven to attract attention. The television ratings back this up completely. When Clark is on the court, viewership numbers go up. When Clark is not on the court, they go down. That is not an opinion. That's a documented trend that has been tracked and reported on multiple times over the past 2 seasons. Arenas sell out when the Fever come to town. Secondary market ticket prices for games are consistently among the highest in the league. Fans are traveling sometimes hundreds of miles, specifically to see Clark play. That is a level of star power that doesn't come around very often in any sport, let alone women's basketball. And Angel Reese deserves enormous credit here too, because she has taken a different path to marketability and executed it brilliantly. She's not trying to out-Clark Clark. She's built her own lane. She understood early on that social media was where she could build the biggest audience fastest, and she went all in on that strategy. 12 million followers don't happen by accident. That's a deliberate, calculated, intelligent approach to personal branding, and it has made her genuinely difficult for sponsors to ignore. The brands she's working with in fashion, tech, and food, those are real partnerships with real money behind them. She's not just a basketball player. She's a content creator who also happens to be very good at basketball. And that's a powerful combination. But at the end of the day, when you add everything up, the search traffic, the brand deals, the TV ratings, the arena attendance, the overall commercial footprint, Clark is in a tier by herself. The Covers report said it plainly. She sits in a tier of her own commercially. Not close to a tier of her own. In a tier of her own. That is the conclusion that a rigorous, data-driven analysis of the entire WNBA produced. The people who have been trying to minimize Clark's impact, the voices who kept insisting that her popularity was overhyped or that other players were just as commercially significant. This study is a direct rebuttal to that argument. You can have preferences about who you like as a player. You can root for whoever you want. But the commercial reality of the WNBA in 2026 is that Caitlin Clark is the engine. She is the reason all 44 Fever games are on national television. She is the reason sponsors are paying attention to this league in ways they never have before. She is the reason casual sports fans who never watched a WNBA game in their lives are suddenly buying